This is the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, getting you the information that you need to be a successful real estate investor. Hosted by Mark Monroe, Ronald Walker, Gabe Rodarte, and me, Marty Grizzanti. Combined, we've done thousands of real estate transactions. So get ready for real stories and true case studies on finding deals, growing portfolios, and making money. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Gabe Rodarte with the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, coming to you live from our group here. And we'll see, my group here is in Houston, Texas. We have Ronnie, who's over in Michigan. What's up, dude? How you been?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm ready for today. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, bro. It's been one of those exciting times where we're just connecting with awesome people as as times are changing and learning the strategies and really being able to bring them to the table and help people out. I'm excited for today.
Yes. So today, guys, we have the privilege to bring on the man, Henry Washington. What's up, brother? How you been?
What's up, man? Glad to be here, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we are glad you're here. We're glad this is happening.
Awesome. Let's do it, man.
Yeah. So guys, for those who don't know, we're going to let him do an intro, but you've seen him around every now and then. You see him on little things. Are you speaking also? You're doing speaking.
Yeah. People let me talk and give me a microphone. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'll tell them it's
and you don't mind.
Whatever.
Yeah. So we're going to go into that. So dude, let's just go into like some baseline. So those who in our group who might have never heard of you before, just kind of like, what'd you do? How'd you get started? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, real estate investor here in the Northwest Arkansas market. I started a little over 5 years ago. Bought my first house. I did that after I had a panic attack about not being able to make enough money 90 days prior to that. And I had a panic attack because I, in life, felt like I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I went to school, I got good grades, I went to college, got a degree, I got a good job, climbed the corporate ladder, making a good salary, and I still didn't have any money. And so, which I was okay with until I got married. And then my wife was like, hey, we should have some money. And I was like, yeah, well, about that. I make light, but the really long story short is we tried to buy a house. I couldn't be on the loan because my credit was so bad and I just wasn't in a financial place to be a benefit to a bank. And so they were like, your wife can buy it, but you can't do that.
Right.
And so had a wake up call about that. And then that just led me down a path of starting to realize that like I can't afford to do any of the things that like I want to do as a provider and a new husband. I can't, like, we can't go on vacations. We can't,
right.
Kids are expensive. Like all the things that we wanted to do, like, couldn't have a dream house, right? Like I was like, there's gotta be a better way. Like this isn't working. And I think I did the things like I thought this was the things everybody said to do, and it's not working. And so had a panic attack and at 3 a.m. and started Googling how do I make extra money, because I just figured if I made more money, I could afford to do the things.
Right.
And that's when I started to learn about real estate. That's when I started to learn that, I started to see all the keywords, right? All the things I'd never paid attention to before, where it's like, cash flow and passive income and appreciation and wealth and how to acquire wealth, and all of like the common denominator among all these words was real estate. And I just started to see that like normal people owned real estate. I didn't really think about it before. I just thought super rich people and corporations owned it, and never really thought that like your neighbor next door might own a bunch of property, right? And so I made a decision at 3 a.m. that if everybody else had figured this stuff out, that I could figure it out too, and that I was going to buy real estate. And so a bunch of education, and 90 days later, I bought my first house. And
so Henry, in this, so you start off and you kind of have this freak out moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I got to make it. Like now, you've got 80 doors. You're speaking, bigger pockets. You're on there quite often. You're getting around. When you started, I'm sure the goal wasn't so much, let me get out there and speak and be the guy to follow. Inside there was, like you said, this desire of like, I need to make this stuff happen for me and my family.
Right.
like when you made that decision, what shifted in your mind? Like, because I think a lot of people see real estate and they're like, man, this could make me extra money, but there's almost a paradigm shift that has to happen, right? Where it's like, yo, I'm not stopping until I figure this out. What was that breaking point? You know, kind of like Batman in the cave. And he's like, yo, the reason why you're not getting out is because you got to take off the belt. You know what I'm saying? And you jump. What was that like for you, man?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You know, so for me, that kind of the turning point moment was not when I bought the first property. The turning point moment was I decided I was going to be successful. Like I truly, like when I say when I say I had a panic attack, like I had a panic attack. Like it was a super freaky moment, and I didn't see a way to make my life better until I started to see that normal people could do this real estate thing. And I was just at a place where I was like, I can't try this. Most people try things. And when you try, you're not really helping yourself figure out how to get it done. When you try, you're just trying it. And then when you hit a roadblock, you stop because you tried. Right. So for me, it had to be bigger than try. And so I just decided. Right. And so when I made the decision, I didn't know how powerful it was, but to decide means to kill off any other option. Right. This is the decision you're making. It's the one thing you're going to do. It's going to work or it's going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And so I told my brain essentially that we're going to figure this thing out. And so as I start to hit roadblocks, my brain wasn't saying, okay, we're done. My brain was saying, no, you said we're going to do this. So let's start thinking through some of our options. Right. And so, you know, key factor number one was the decision itself. And that really helped. And I just solved one problem at a time. Right. So the first problem was, can I do this thing? And I just told myself, well, yeah, I can. And I mean it in every ounce of my being. The next problem was, all right, well, how do you do this thing? I have no idea. And so I solved that problem by saying, well, somebody here has figured it out. There's houses everywhere. People own them. Let's go be in the room with the people who do this. And so I just Googled real estate meetups in my area and literally went to every single meetup, meeting, hangout. Like, I don't care if investors were in a room, I got in the room, and I got in the room so consistently that people just started to think that I was a successful investor because I was always in the room around them.
Right.
Like, and that helped me build relationships with successful investors. And the cool part about this real estate investor community is most people will help you, right? Like, especially if you're showing them that, like, you're serious, because everybody hears about the guy who wants to buy a property. They show up to a meeting and they never see him again. But when you're there over and over and over, and you're hungry and you're asking questions and you're trying to figure out how to add value to people, like, people see that and they want to help you. So I built all these relationships. And then the next thing that happened was I've just naturally always been a believer in the world gives you what you give it. And so I wanted to give it that I was a real estate investor so I could get the things it's going to give me for being that. And so I just started telling everybody that I was an investor, even though I had no clue how to do it, even though that I didn't even know if I could purchase a property, right? Like I had a subpar credit score and I only had $1,000 in my savings account, but I'm telling people I'm a real estate investor. Because if I don't believe it, who's going to believe it, right? Like if I wasn't bought in, who's going to be bought in? And that's how I found my first deal. A buddy of mine heard that I was buying property. He was in a really tough spot with his house, had to sell it in less than 30 days because he had to get a certain amount of money to go buy this other property for his church. And so he came to me and he was like, yeah, you can have my house for $115 because that's how much money I need to go buy this other house for my church. It's worth like $150. But if you can close in less than 30 days, like, just, it's yours. Will you buy it? I was like, yeah, for sure. I'll buy it. Right. Like I had no idea how to do it. I literally had to Google how to buy it. I didn't know how to buy it. Didn't know how to put it under contract. I knew nothing, but I just solved one problem at a time. Right.
Yeah. Well, and Henry, that's so powerful because how often is it that you see, and even as problems get bigger, right? It's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? You get that problem, and 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 all of a sudden you're like, it's just your mind starts folding in on itself, and then you're like, oh, there's the woman in the red dress, you know, and you're like, what am I doing? And so I think that's so powerful. And for the guys who are listening, he keeps saying that. And I think the reason why that's so powerful is if you can just sequence them, you can actually get through the problems quicker.
Yep. One of those problems will be more important than the others. Solve the most important one, figure the next one out. Like,
Man,
and that's just all I was doing. I was solving the problem that was in front of me because it was what was stopping me from getting to my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy that you're saying, that not everyone really gets. Like, this is something that's really important. And we've been doing this for a while. I run a networking group. For those who don't know, one of the fastest ways to build relationships is to go to these networking groups, go to these meetups, connect with them. We would host, put 150, 200 people in a room once a month. I mean, that was an easy no-brainer. I met so many great people through there. I went all over the place. And this is Houston Metro. I mean, it takes an hour to get to a meeting. Yeah. And then there was a time where every day of the week we had a networking event. This is pre-COVID. I mean, there was events for every freaking thing out there. And now you have Clubhouse, you have something like, I have a friend of mine who runs a storage clubhouse for storage facilities, and he's met so many people through there. And I hop on there and I get to meet someone. Hey, do you know that person that knows, all that stuff is a game changer. Today, met another guy who used to be part of the boardroom with Kent Clothier, that's close to my close friends. And next thing you know, I'm like, well, you know this person? Yes, I know. Oh, cool. Well, we kind of did a deal together, but we didn't, The deal fell through, but it was a roundabout, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that we knew each other through this way. Yeah, we knew. So all that stuff though is now sets you up for the next phase, right? Yep. And now you have this next phase and you're going, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I tell my buddy, he's going to sell me this house. And, a lot of people get approached with deals and they don't take any action on them. A, because they don't know their deals. B, because they are making decisions for other people without doing the research, right? I think we do that a lot. Like, most people who have a subpar credit score, who only have $1,000 in their savings account, when somebody comes and says, hey, I've got this house, it's a great deal, you can have it under value if you can close in 30 days, most people would have looked at those factors and said, well, I can't buy it. I'd love to, but I can't, right? Because you've made all these decisions for other people. You said you can't because you don't. You think you know, but you don't, right? So you think, well, I only have $1,000 and the bank's going to want a down payment. I don't have a down payment. I can't buy it. You think, well, I have bad credit. A bank's not going to loan to me because I have bad credit, so I can't buy it. Like, you did all this analysis in your head already without actually talking to the people who can give you the money to buy the deal. And so I just didn't make decisions for people. I just told them I would buy it. And then I went to a bank and I let a bank tell me if they could loan to me or not, right? And by pure happenstance, I went to a small local bank, not because I'm some genius at knowing who to talk to about certain deals, but because it was the closest bank to my office. And so I walked in there with the contract, physical piece of paper in my hand, and said, I would like to buy this house. Can someone help me with it? I actually ended up talking to the commercial lender because he was the person that was there at the time. I didn't know commercial loan products were different than conventional loan products. It was just who I happened to talk to. He told me, he was like, hey, this house is worth a whole lot more than this, right? And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm buying it, right? And so he basically told me about a commercial loan product. I didn't have to have as high of a credit score to get it. They care more about the deal than they do about your credit. Don't get me wrong, you have to have a certain credit score, but they also care about, is the deal going to make money, right? If the deal's going to make money, then, or if the deal's a good deal, if I don't make my payments, the bank gets control of a property that's worth a whole lot more than what they lent to me on it. Right. They can go sell it at a discount and still make way more money on that than they are on the interest payments I'm going to make. Like, it's a safe investment for them. Didn't know these things at the time, but like, he saw it and was like, yeah, we want to loan on this, right? He was just like, we just need you to have a 15% down payment. Yeah, 15%. It's up 20 grand. I was like, yeah, I got it. Right. Didn't have it, obviously, but I had that network that I'd been building from consistently being in the room. So I was able to go to them and say, hey, is this truly a good deal? Hey, how are you guys getting money to buy these things? And one of my friends, who now is a business partner that I had met through there, helped me brainstorm different ways to get access to the funds to close on it. We actually landed on borrowing from a 401k. I didn't know that was an option. Right.
Nice.
But if I would have said no because I just thought I only had $1,000. I would have never learned about a 401k
Right.
loan and would have never leveraged that 401k to buy that first property. And actually, it was my wife's 401k. I didn't have one. So we borrowed from my wife's 401k, bought the property, raised the rents to market rents. It started cash flowing. It was paying back the 401k loan. It was paying back the 401k loan with interest to ourselves. So we were making a little extra money. And it was just like, I went from panic attack to owning a property in 90 days that was cash flowing. And I basically used monopoly money to buy it. And I was like, whoa, this is way more powerful than I ever thought.
Dude, that's so amazing. I love that. And I think it's so simple. It's so simple, right? Like jumping into that and doing that. And we overcomplicate things. And guys, if you're out there, don't try to figure it all out. Ask the people who know, right? And keep asking. And if you keep asking, then all of a sudden things will open up and you'll be able to go that direction. So Henry, that was your first deal, right? Yep. So you jump in, you buy that deal, you turn it around. How'd you go from that first deal to 80 doors? Like, what happened in that time frame?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things happened after I bought that first deal. And it's the answer to this question and your first question you asked me a while back. So what I realized was that small local banks are going to give me an advantage to being able to buy these properties because I can what happened was I bought the first property. The bank called me and said, hey, that property has equity. We'd like to give you a line of credit on that equity so you could go and buy more deals like this, because they wanted to lend against those safe deals. And they were willing to let me leverage the equity in that one if I could bring them more. And so I was like, wait a minute, now I have more money to go do more deals. And when you had a panic attack 90 days previously, and now you've got access to 20 grand to go buy more property, like it's mind blowing. Right. And so like, I was like, okay, so this is a thing. Right. And so I started to understand a little bit more about small local banks and how they could benefit. And I realized I had solved the problem of finding the money for the deals. Now, if I could just find the deals, I could scale or grow or buy as many as I wanted to. Right. And so I started to then operate my business like a wholesaler, not because I wanted to wholesale deals, but because wholesalers are great at finding good deals. And so if I can generate enough leads to find good deals and I have the money to close on them all, then I can just scale and grow as quickly as I want to. So we started to operate like a wholesaler, direct to seller leads, bring in leads, buy everything, sell the deals we don't want, keep the ones we love. Right.
Yep.
Still, that's what we do today. The other thing I realized was you asked about, how did I go from that to like speaking and being on podcasts, and like, was that part of the plan? It was never part of the plan. But after I did that first deal, two things happened. One, I realized that real estate was it. Like, this was how I was going to not just supplement my income, but it was how I was going to retire my wife and provide us with the life that I felt like, she deserved. And then I felt this overwhelming feeling of responsibility because I had a panic attack 90 days prior. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had done the things I was supposed to do up until then. Like, I had gotten the good grades and got the degree and got the good job. There's people who hadn't done that who are freaking out about money. Right. And there's no reason to say that they couldn't do exactly what I did. But there wasn't a ton of education out there about it, or it was harder to find. Social media wasn't as, super popular as it is now. And I just had this overwhelming feeling of responsibility that I had to share this with as many people as possible. So I started social media on Instagram with just the sole purpose of just sharing what I was doing so that other people could see it and see that they could change their lives too. And that has taken on a mind of its own and has turned into this platform that I'm now able to teach, and I'm provided opportunities to speak and be on podcasts and host podcasts. It never was a plan, but it was absolutely part of a responsibility I felt like I have to share this with as many people as possible. So
that's cool.
Yep.
That's cool, man. I really like the whole story. And now we're up to today. Like, this is it. Like, this is where you're going. Wow. Okay. We've gone through this journey with you. You've shared all these things. You're giving back. wasn't the original plan. And that's one of the things that what I like about real estate is that most of the stuff I've done is not the original plan. My plan was to be in real estate, right? That was the plan. It's a pretty big world though. We're doing more commercial stuff now. We're doing some other things. I'm doing some stuff that was nowhere near my plan.
Right.
But it was the big picture plan. It was a big picture dream. That would be great. Didn't know how exactly I was going to get there.
Right.
But I know it was just one foot in front of the other type of a thing. I think people get bogged down in a lot of different areas of your story of going, wait a minute, how are you able to do this? So before we go into current today, which is like some fun and exciting things that's going on, catching us up from where you went to today, as far as the experiences and the stuff that you have done with helping other people, because we all have our stuff. Like Ronnie and I were talking before you came on, which was just kind of like what people get hung up on and how we can help them transition through, right?
Yep.
What is one of the things that you're like, I've noticed myself in the last 6 months, 3 months, helping people transition, like mindset breakthrough stuff that just you could say off the top of your head that you're helping them go through?
Yeah, man. I think where I typically tend to help people is most people, when they come to me, already know real estate is something they're super interested in. They have their why. It's just getting over the overwhelming amount of information, right? Real estate's cool because it's so flexible, but it's super overwhelming to new people because it's so flexible.
Right.
They don't know, there's apartments and singles and multis and storage and and then there's all these different ways to finance it. And people are like, how can I research all of this stuff before I know what's the right thing for me to do? And they get freaked out. Or even when people feel like, all right, I know I want to buy multifamily. I know I want to buy small multifamily. They still get super overwhelmed at how to do it. And where I typically can help people the best is by helping them put the blinders on to focus on the lowest common denominator. What's the thing that you need to do that's going to get you to success the quickest, and where you can and ignore all the other stuff or noise, right? And so the mindset shift is that you don't have to know every single step of the process or have it all ready to go before you're taking action. For me, it's helping new people focus on what's the lowest common denominator. And if you want to flip, wholesale, hotel, Airbnb, midterm rental, like, in order for you to do that at any level of success is you have to have a good deal. You've got to find a deal under market value where you can add some value to it and then monetize it in some way. And so I say, take all the other stuff off the table. Who cares who your contractor is going to be? Who cares who your title company is going to be? Who cares who even cares who's going to loan you the money right now? You don't have anything for them to loan you money to.
Right.
Focus on what does a good deal look like in my market? Learn that, and then learn how you're going to go find those good deals. Maybe it's on the market, offered on the MLS. Maybe it's off market. You do some mail strategies, some cold calls, whatever it is. What's a good deal look like in my market? How am I going to find those good deals? Implement that strategy relentlessly, consistently until you find a deal. Once you find a deal, you'll be so motivated to go do all that other stuff that you need to do in order to close that deal that it'll come easier. And now you've got something of substance for those people to work with. If you go to a contractor right now and tell him you want him to give you some pricing on what he might charge you to renovate a fictitious property, ain't no way. If you go to a bank and say, what kind of loan terms can you lend me on this, potential property I may find in the future, they're not going to waste their time. But when you go to them with a good deal, something tangible they can bid on, something tangible they can tell you what they want to work with, you got a whole different ballgame. They'll give you that. You'll get that information a whole lot quicker.
Well, not only will they give it to you a whole lot quicker, but they're going to like bend over backwards to try to earn your business.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, they see you're doing things.
Absolutely. And so I think there's an element of street credibility, right? I think me and Gabe were talking about this in commercial deals, right? Once you get your foot in the door and you're actually working the deals, there's this element of credibility that comes to the table when you have that deal under contract, or you have this deal that you're looking at and you're bringing people in. One of the things that I've jumped into is, it's easy to want to consume information.
Yep.
Right. what's harder, at least for me, right? I read a lot. Obviously, I got the bookshelf behind me and different stuff. So for me, it's easy to consume information, and it's easy to look at all these different strategies, and that's really fun. What's harder is saying, okay, how do I work really hard at the thing that I need to focus on?
Yep.
How do I constantly improve in the direction that is the life I want, without just getting knowledge to be that guy who can spout those random things of knowledge, at a campfire.
Right.
And then 3, how do you build a network of the right people? And I think what you said is just being able to put those blinders on and say, guys, this is my strategy. This is what I'm focused on. This is where I want to develop to get better in this strategy. And here are the types of people I need to connect with along the way. And it sets you on a trajectory so you can win, right? Rather than you meet with these people that have nothing to do with the direction you're going.
Right.
You're wasting your time. Yeah, it's cool, but it's not in line with the way you're going. And I think people get pulled in 10, 15 different directions. I did, right? I got pulled in 15 different directions. And I finally had to cut everybody off and be like, this is what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I want to meet with the right people and then listen to them.
That's right.
And
I think to add on to that, Henry, is one of the things that we talk about here at the Power Play podcast. So we have Mark on there, we have Marty. One of the things that we always, especially because having a podcast, and you probably get pulled in many directions of going, hey, look, can you do this? Can you speak here? Can you have these other things? And you have to ask yourself, is this going to, one, provide for the direction that I want to go in, or is this something that's going to pull me off track?
Right.
And then 2, is this going to provide the service that I want to provide? Because eventually, if you start putting out into the atmosphere something else that you don't ever want in return, then you're going to start getting stuff that you don't want in return.
That's
and
right.
Go figure, I mean, when people put out there that they're focusing a lot on the educational type thing, but they're not really going out to networking events, doing these other things, or calling the people they need to call or get those deals, they're not going to get the return that they want. And so we want to make sure here that we provide, we want people to make power plays. And I think one of the things we talk about is, or I know one of the things we talk about is focus on the tasks that are closest to the money.
Yep.
What is the task today? What is the thing right now? I'm freaking bogged down. And, I get people texting me quite a bit. I had a call yesterday. I had a call this morning on people going, dude, I'm going in 6 directions. And I'll help. Okay, KPIs. Let's go back to the KPI. Well, I don't really have my KPIs. It's okay. Just give me, I can figure it out. Boom, boom, boom. You go through it. Within 15 minutes, I'm going, out of all these things, there's only 2 tasks that's closest to the money. That's it. Once those 2 tasks are done, freaking get rid of the other 4 things and just focus on those 2. One of them has to come first. Do it. Believe it or not, you get all this stuff done in less than 30 minutes.
Right.
You're going, holy cow, I just have my day back. And you're going, yes, if you can, because I've had it before too. I've gone through my anxiety things. I've gone through different stuff where you're looking at the computer screen as a real estate investor, or you're working your daytime job or whatever job you have. And you're going, I got to figure out what to do next. It's easy to say, hey, tonight I got a networking event that I need to go to. I'll go do that. It's easier to do that because that's a setup thing in the schedule, not designed by you. You just said yes. But whenever you're creating your own destiny, whenever you're creating your own schedule, that's when you really have to hone down and go, what is the task out of these 5 things that's closest to the money in the direction I need to go?
That's such a fact, 100%, because that's essentially what I'm telling new investors to do when they're getting started. Getting your deal is going to get you to your payday.
Yeah.
So focus on that, because too many, and what happens, what I find a lot of the times is new investors, they want to do things to make them feel good about accomplishing something.
Yeah.
But they also want to do the things that they can say, I accomplished it, but really aren't going to get them to getting that deal done because it keeps them feeling safe, right? And so they want to go meet contractors and they want to go talk to certain people, because talking is easy, but it's not getting you to a deal. But it makes you feel like, well, now I know who my, title company is going to be, so I've made progress. Well, unless you got a deal to take them, they don't really care, right? And so focusing on that thing that's going to get you to the money is good for you getting paid quicker. and also scary because it means you got to do a deal.
Oh, it's something, right? I mean, you're putting work in, you're doing something, you have faith into something because freaking Gabe or Henry or Ronnie or someone told him this is going to work or her, this is going to work. And now you got to put rubber meets the road. You're doing something. It's scary. Like I said, it's easy. And so one of the things, like, dopamine's a real thing, guys. Like, your drive is a real thing. You have to reward yourself at some of these smaller hits that you're doing because you're basically tricking yourself. Right. You have to learn how to reward yourself. And Henry, I'll be honest with you, man, I was horrible at it. Like, I would get huge to me, a 40K payday was huge at the time. I'm going, I've never saw this money before. I would get a 40-day payday and I'd go back to my wife and I'd go, oh, we did okay. Like, I think I could have restructured the deal differently. I could have picked up another 5K off the deal or whatever. And I don't know who the hell I was comparing myself to, but 40K, within 45 days was pretty good considering not a wholesale deal. You know what I mean? Like, what was I doing at the time? I have no idea. My head was in the clouds, and now I'm going, dude, even small wins. And this is the thing for today. Like, if I get a small win, I'm freaking like, heck yeah, dude, we're freaking going after this thing now. I don't care what win it was. I've been working on like this weight loss schedule and stuff like that. Man, my guy, we weighed myself in Friday, and then I went to go to the changing room, and I spent 3 minutes, Ronnie, no joke, dude, 3 minutes. I'm in the changing room, like, just freaking fuck yeah, heck yeah. I'm just like pounding, just excited over the whole thing because it took me so long to get to. But I also was doing it to remind my body, to remind my mind, to remind everything going, this is worth celebrating.
Right.
Like, if you put your work towards this business, towards real estate, and you get a deal under contract, freaking celebrate. It might be a shit deal. I get it. It might be, but at least you did the work. Okay. Right. And then whenever you get to closing, you freaking high five yourself. There's nobody else around, whatever. You call your coach, you call whoever, and you freaking make a big deal about it. Right. And even if it's only a 3K deal, that's a transaction that most people will never do in their whole life.
100%.
We were sitting with people last Friday. I went to go talk to this couple. We're going to take over their house note and stuff. And I don't even know why I was doing this. Someone, they needed help. So I'm helping them do this thing. The lady's, she's every bit like Henry, every bit of 60 something years old. And she's like, I don't even know the process. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, I've never bought a house in my whole life. Like, this is my mom's house. Like, I don't even know what I need to know. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm sitting there, and I just got done celebrating a freaking awesome deal. I'm about to go watch the World Series. I'm just going to go hang out with my friend, all this stuff, my family. And I'm just going, I get excited over this because what you're saying is the thing that I think our culture and our society in real estate investing, what we miss out on is going, remember where you are compared to where you were a week ago, just a week. And then you look at someone who's 60 years old, right? 65 probably. And she's like, I've never bought a house in my life. I don't even know how to sell a house. Like, I've never needed to sell a house.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, oh my gosh.
Some perspective.
Even if you had a 3K deal, you've done more than that person who's lived 65 years and hasn't done anything.
That's right.
Right. So anyways, it's just kind of that perspective thing that I think that you have this awesome gift, right, of helping people see and pull into perspective of these tertiary things, these out there in the peripheral, and you're able to bring people in to go, okay, look, let me just help give you perspective here on just where you are in your business,
Yeah. I mean, with my students, we start every coaching call off with, I want to hear about the wins they have in their business. And I tell them, a win is anything you think that has moved your business forward in the past week since we've spoken again, right? Because I think we have to, it's tricking your brain. It's giving yourself that pat on the back because if you've done anything that moved your business forward, you are one step closer to your goal now than you were before you did that thing. So people will get on the call and they say, well, I didn't really do anything. I just made a couple of offers. That's a huge win.
Right.
Even if the answer was hell no, I'm not accepting that offer. Like, you can't buy a property without making an offer. So you have done one of the hardest things that people don't do. They don't make offers, right? Because they look at what somebody or what they think somebody wants for a property versus what they can pay, and they go, oh, they're not going to take my offer, and they don't do anything.
With that offer stuff, Henry, I think that's really good because a lot of people think they see us on these podcasts or they see you speaking and they're like, well, if only Henry could get on the phone for me, or if only this. What they don't realize is the people we're talking to, they don't see us as celebrities. We're just another dude they're talking to that, they're going to reject us just like they reject them.
Right.
The only difference is we've done it more times. What I'm saying? We have more reps in, and you have to go through those reps in order to get those deals. And just like what you said is, if they tell you no, that's okay. You jumped on the phone. You had 40 conversations this week, right?
No is one of the best answers to get.
Absolutely. And so
it's the second best answer you can get.
There you go. And then it'll turn to a yes, and it'll be awesome. So let's transition a little bit. So what are you excited about, or what are you doing in your business with interest rates going up? The other day I was in Detroit and I was speaking at a small event, and I asked the crowd, I was like, how many people are like super scared of the market? And nobody raised their hand. I said, okay, well, how many people are nervous, but, skeptical, but, kind of optimistic? And a few people raised their hand. And I was like, how many people are really excited? And everybody raised their hand. And I was like, I don't think everyone's telling the truth. And so in this time, with you, what are you doing to pivot your business to be able to capitalize through this cycle, right? No matter what the cycle actually ends up looking like, what are you doing to prepare for it? And what are you doing that you are putting in place that you're excited to pivot into?
Yeah, man. Real estate is it's cyclical, right? And I think our cycle was delayed because of COVID, right? Not something I think we were due to start a cycle around when COVID hit, right? To come down a little bit, but COVID kind of put a pause on that and actually pushed things in the opposite direction, right? And so now I think we're starting to see that cycle or correction come around back to, we're really kind of just getting back to where things were pre-COVID. It's not like things are crashing. It's more of a correction. But all that to say, the things that we're doing are not much different, right? We are still, with real estate, it's either going to be a situation where deals are hard to find and money is easy to find, or deals are easy to find and money is hard to find, right? And so now we're shifting into this climate where there's economic uncertainty, both with interest rates, with inflation. Those create economic hard times. And we all know that economic hard times create more opportunities where people need to sell, not want to sell, right? And so there's more deals out there. I want to be able to buy those deals, but the problem is money's getting more expensive, harder to find. Banks are tightening up. They're not lending as freely and definitely not as cheaply as they were before. And so we are preparing ourselves. We've been buying over the past several years. We've got property with equity in it. We're pulling lines of credit, right? Getting access to money. We're not necessarily using it unless we have to, but I want it to be there in the event that I need to buy something that I can't get a bank loan on immediately or traditionally, right? I don't want to pass up on an amazing opportunity because I couldn't get a bank to loan on it. And so we are making sure that we have access to capital, right? Through either lines of credit on existing properties, unsecured lines of credit, building our private lender network. I just joined a group where I've got access to a network of private lenders, and we're reaching out, doing basically direct mail marketing, but to private lenders to try to build relationships with more private lenders to have access to more capital so that we can capitalize on these good deals if I can't go about it through traditional methods, if money starts to dry up. Yeah. But excited for the opportunities that we'll be able to buy. I think there's certain asset classes that are just going to be more opportunity than others. And there's always going to be opportunity in the single and small multifamily space because there's always situations where people need to sell. And so I just want to be able to take advantage, and I'm buying as much as I possibly can. I could care less really about interest rates. For me, if the numbers work, the numbers work. If I got to pay 10% interest, but I'm making my cash on cash return and my cash flow numbers, I don't really care.
That's good. That's good. And I'm actually seeing, from my buyer network on the wholesale side is, the buyers who are still buying are the ones who are holding, right? A lot of the flippers are getting very nervous. They're kind of pulling back a little bit. But my relationships with the guys specifically like here in Grand Rapids that are buying and that have bought and held their properties proper and know what their numbers look like, they're the actual strong buyers today, because now they're like, hey, I want to pick up this area, right? I want to pick up East Grand Rapids. I want to pick up here on the north side. I want to pick up. And what's happening is they're seeing an opportunity and realizing, I'm the guy that can step up and build my portfolio as long as the cash flow numbers work, because they can put the pressure on. Rather than them being the highest buy, they can buy deals cheaper where it's actually a little bit higher than what the flipper. And it's just this weird thing, at least in my market.
Yep.
And if you're willing to step in, there's two end games in real estate from my perspective. It's either owning a whole bunch of property and cash flowing. It doesn't matter what asset, or it's being a lender. And so, being a wholesaler is not the end game. That's just to get some cash in your pocket.
Right.
And I know a lot of guys who will stay in wholesaling for a long time. I did. I stayed in wholesaling too long. And being able to transition and say, what do I actually want? And then going after it, I think is really, really powerful. Gabe, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, guys, I'm excited about this whole season. That's why we wanted to pull it out of you, Henry, and to go, okay, like what's really happening from your perspective in your area? Because we have a privilege of talking to other people, and that's why we want to get them on. We want to hear, is this just Houston, Metro, Texas, or is this Michigan? What's happening? Is people doing things differently? Guys, you're hearing the same thing across the board. Today is November 1st, 2022. So payday for those people who have rentals. And we're just going, okay, cool. Like, how do we want to acquire more? What are we getting ready for? And what are the things that we could be anticipating in the future? And we're hearing this across the board, right? Did you acquire your lines of credit? Did you acquire these other things? Ronnie actually just heard me on the call of me using some of my line of credit to acquire a couple things. And I'm going to do it because I knew this day was happening like back in November last year, because I was prepared, because I just had some good mentors that are like, hey, one day this is going to dry up. Grab everything you can that's at 3% interest and lower. And I go, okay, boss, I'm going to do it. And even though I'm like, we all need mentors, and I'm like, okay, well, how do you do it? Now we're in a situation where you're not going to be able to find a 3% line of credit. Very, very few areas you're going to be able to find, but you can go and still exactly what Henry said. Here's the trick, guys. If you have five, just go to Google machine. All right. and just look up banks. And then find the 5 banks that are not like nationally known banks. We have one over here called Plain State or something like that. I don't know, Plain something. And, like a local bank, maybe with your name on, with the state name on it, or a community name on it.
First bank of insert.
Yeah, first bank of, whatever state or whatever county, whatever city. And those people, and just go spend $100 and open up a bank account. And while you're there, you hammer them with a million questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? So, okay. And what I do, because I have a lot of our stuff is with like multiple bank accounts, I'll go in, and this is what we did. This was at the end of last year and the very beginning of this year, before the junk hit the fan. I would go, hey, listen, we have all of our businesses in these other accounts. If I were to switch them over and I were to do all my business with you, what are you providing? That's it. That's the question, right? What are you providing for me? Like, why would I want to, how many accounts I have to switch over to do this? Right. What are you providing for me to switch over? And they'll go, well, Mr. Rodarte, you have blank, or we have this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try it out, and then what they end up doing, this is the trick of the trade that I'm putting at the very end of this podcast, guys. Here's the trick of the trade. You know what they end up doing? They go, You know what? We have the 0% interest credit card for business owners. Do you have an LLC? Yeah, I have an LLC. Okay, cool. This is for business owners. We don't give it to a lot of people, but blah, blah, blah. This is their pitch, but they probably only do it to people. They're not putting it on the website and everywhere else. So then you go, oh, well, let's take a look at it. Next thing you know, you end up getting a line of credit on a card or a LLC, something where you're at 0% for 12, 24 months, something like that. All right, guys, this is a trick that this thing will take a short, what do you call it? A YouTube short of this and put this somewhere, because this is a trick that everybody just misses of going, it's not that hard to do. And then next thing you know, they pull your credit. Yes, hopefully you have good credit. If you don't, then you'll end up getting there, and you start off small. Maybe you start off at a higher interest rate. Maybe it's not 0%, right? But you now establish the track history over time. And when the time comes, they will be there.
That's right.
That's really, really good, man. That's awesome. Well, Henry, I really appreciate you coming on today and just sharing your story and your expertise and what you got. You know, for us kind of wrapping up, what's out of everything, to sum it up, what's one thing you would like to leave everybody with? If you were to just kind of give them one nugget at this point, what would you like to leave them with?
Yeah, don't worry about having all the steps. We don't always get to know all the steps. It's okay to not know all the steps. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So instead of saying, well, I want to learn and make sure I have A, B, C, and D lined up, don't. Just make a decision. Truly make a decision in your heart, in your mind, in every ounce of your being, and know that I will be a successful real estate investor, or I will lose 30 pounds, or I will find a side hustle that's going to make me XYZ every month. Like, make that decision. Matter of fact, write that down 3 times every morning. I will ... And when you do that, you'll start to realize that you'll start to figure out the path, because you've just told your brain to go figure it out. And so you'll hear some crazy guys like us say something on a podcast and go, oh, snap, that's it. That's the thing I needed. Right? Or you'll read a book and see a paragraph and go, yep, this is it. This is the information of how I'm going to get to that next step, because you've told your brain to go find it. So make that decision.
That's good.
That's awesome.
That's
Gabe,
good.
you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. For those who are watching the video, we have henrywashington.com. If you want to go connect with him on the gram, you have at the Henry Washington. At the Henry Washington, that's his handle name, and then gumroad.com/Henry Washington. These are the main areas to connect with him, and you'll probably see him on other stuff. And what else you're on?
Bigger Pockets. You can always check me out on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets podcast, Bigger Pockets YouTube channel, On the Market podcast on Bigger Pockets. Just Google Bigger Pockets and Henry Washington. You'll find me talking some craziness, I'm sure.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
This has been another episode of Real Estate Power Play, guiding real estate entrepreneurs to a brighter future. If you liked what you heard, consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast, or follow us on YouTube at Real Estate Power Play.